Good morning, good afternoon, or good evening, and welcome to the Blurring the Lines podcast. I am one of the hosts of this fantastic podcast, Adam Bell. And joining me is the other fantastic host, Peter Nikolaidis. How you doing, Peter?
I'm caught off guard by your ad-libbing. You've changed. Wait. How many hundreds of episodes do we have now?
180. This is 190.
190, and you decided to switch it up a little bit, huh?
I've been talking all day.
I'm a fantastic host. I guess I have to be doing fantastic.
Well,
man.
And you do have a little lesser audio quality today, and we acknowledge that, but it's just not a deal breaker. It's really not.
Okay, good. Apologies to a certain listener who is no doubt offended by the lack of audio quality here. But there you go.
Oh. It really just kind of sounds like you have a cold.
Well, I'm using my AirPods. At least I think I'm using my AirPods. Let me double check. Yep, I'm using my AirPods. Now, you sometimes say that my MacBook Air phone sounds better.
Oh, yeah, that's better. Now,
interesting.
Yeah, that's better.
All right, so I'll just use the AirPods for the output and the Mac for the input. There we go. Sorry for the technical explanation, dear listeners. Probably more than you cared for right now, but hey, get what you pay for on this podcast.
Yep.
Free and worth every penny.
It's double money day.
Double your money back. That's right. All right. What do we got for an agenda here? I know you sent one out earlier, and I actually threw something else on it, but I was rushing to get back here because I was running some errands for my father, and I'm admittedly running a little bit behind.
So I think we've got plenty of BS. I mean, plenty of interesting topics today that we can talk about. I have a feeling that we're going to talk a little bit about more AI stuff, since we've really been enthralled. And I think it's funny how we've wrapped Scott into our. He's like, what am I? He probably says, why am I here? And how did I get here? And Peter and Adam are driving me nuts.
Yeah, listener and friend of the show, and occasional sometimes co-host of the show by virtue of crossover episodes, Scott Wilsey. We're talking to you. We're talking about you and to you. It's kind of funny because after he, I'll say it. He kind of, like had a meltdown on AI and stuff, and on my fixation with it. I deliberately stopped talking to him about it, and he generally gives me more stuff on AI now than I give to him. Well, but we had some fun with it recently, didn't we?
We did. Well, and admittedly, you were a little over the top there with your interest and your evangelism of it. So I mean,
well, I don't know, man. Compared to, I don't know, startups who are now offering commercial products for it. And if you read the announcement, the open letter that was signed by all these luminaries, including Elon Musk earlier this week, saying that we need to take a break.
So I didn't read it. So can you summarize it for me, Peter?
Well, no. But if you pause recording for just give me 1 minute. This is the preparation that we do in this, or the lack thereof.
Pausing. Here we go.
Okay, so we literally took a 3-minute break just now so that I could hop over to my good friend Chat-GPT and have it write the next section of the podcast. So Adam, over to you, sir.
Welcome to the AI podcast, where we discuss the latest developments in artificial intelligence and its impact on society. Today, we discuss an open letter signed by hundreds of prominent AI experts. They didn't ask us. Anyway, tech entrepreneurs and scientists called for a pause on the development of testing and AI technologies more powerful than AI's open language model GPT-4. The letter warns that language models like GPT-4 can already compete with humans at a growing range of tasks and could be used to automate jobs and spread misinformation. The signatories include Joshua or Joshua Benjul, a professor at the University of Montreal, history Yuval Noah Harari, Skype co-founder Jan Tallinn, and Twitter CEO Elon Musk. Joining me today to discuss this letter is our AI expert, Peter Nikolaidis. How you doing, Peter?
I'm great, Adam. It's great to be here. Thanks for having me, Adam. I'm going to try to stick to the script.
All right, Peter, could you explain why the signatories of this letter are calling for a pause on the development and testing of AI technologies, more powerful than GPT-4?
Okay, I'm going to go off script. For starters, I think it's kind of hilarious that the Chat-GPT people anyway, no, I'm going to go back on script. Sorry.
Yep,
Sure. The concern expressed by the signatories of this letter is that OpenAI, Microsoft, and Google have begun a profit-driven race to develop a release of new AI models as quickly as possible. This pace of development is faster than society and regulators can come to terms with. The letter raises concerns that AI systems could replace humans and remake civilization.
So, what impact could GPT-4 have on society?
Language models like GPT-4 can already compete with humans at a growing range of tasks and could be used to automate jobs and spread misinformation. Although GPT-4 has impressive capabilities, it can also make trivial logical mistakes, betray ingrained societal biases, and can be prompted to say hateful or potentially harmful things.
So, what are the implications of this open letter for the tech industry?
Well, the letter calls on all AI labs to immediately pause for at least 6 months the training of AI systems more powerful than GPT-4, which could impact the ongoing work at Microsoft, Google, and other tech companies building advanced language models. Hannah Wong, a spokesperson for OpenAI, says that the company spent more than 6 months working on the safety and alignment of GPT-4 after training the model.
So, how are governments and regulators responding to these developments?
Well, the EU is currently considering legislation that would limit the use of AI depending on risks involved. The White House has proposed an AI Bill of Rights that spells out protections that citizens should expect from algorithm discrimination, data privacy breaches, and other AI-related problems.
Well, Peter, thank you for your insights on this very important issue.
Thank you, Adam. It was great to be here.
Yeah, well, that's all the time we have today. Thank you for joining us on the AI podcast, where we explore the latest developments in artificial intelligence and its impact upon society.
We now return to the Blurring the Lines podcast, already in progress. So what I'll do is I copied and pasted an article from Wired magazine that came out 2 days ago, March 29th. And I'll put a link in the show notes. The subject or the title of the article, is "In Sudden Alarm, Tech Doyens Call for a Pause on Chat-GPT. Tech luminaries, renowned scientists, and Elon Musk," which I think it's funny. He's not a tech luminary or a renowned scientist, apparently, warn of an out-of-control race to develop and deploy ever more powerful AI systems. And again, this was in Wired. So yeah, go ahead.
I don't know if our listeners fully got that, but that whole bit was written by AI. Peter and
yeah, well, that's I'm going there. I'm going there. I'm going there. So what I did is I took that article, which I'll put a link in the show notes, copied and pasted it into Chat-GPT, and I said, please summarize this article for me. And it did, right? It summarized it pretty well. It gave me back about one big long blob of text, one long paragraph. I said, please give it back to me in a format appropriate for reading as a script on a podcast. And it gave us, you heard us ad lib a couple words here and there, right? But other than that, it gave us back a script. And that literally took me like 2-3 minutes, right? Was it perfect? No, it's not the most riveting, but it's pretty darn good. you
Yeah.
know. And so that's the same kind of stuff that, you know, what I'm using it for still is as a starting point. But yeah, that's the latest from GPT, and I have an add-on to it too, though. So Google, as you know, Google has released Bard as well, Google Bard, which definitely seems more conservative in its answers and stuff. So far, I've only given it a couple of prompts, literally like 3 maybe, and it hasn't done much of anything. I've played with Bing a little bit, but I've been using Bing mostly in its image creating feature powered by
Saw
DALL-E.
that. That looks really cool.
I like it.
Yeah.
I like it. So here's the thing. Um, there's 2 things that well, I'm pretty sure none of the guys who play in my Saturday night Superpowers campaign listen to the show. But if they do, guys, if any of you guys are listening, spoiler alert, you may want to pause now. Okay. So as you know, I'm a big comic book nerd.
Mhm.
And some of my favorite characters from comic books come from the DC universe. So one of them is Jason Blood, who was a knight in King Arthur's court.
Mhm.
And he made a deal with Merlin, the magician, you know, the
Mhm.
wizard, who bound Jason's soul to this demon called Etrigan. And with that, you know, he was able to harness the power of the demon and save King Arthur's court, right?
Mhm.
You know, thousand or so years ago, you know, whenever Arthur was supposedly around. This made him immortal. And so he became, you know, kind of usually a hero, maybe slightly anti-hero. You know, sometimes he'll fight a little bit the good guys, but usually fights alongside with the good guys.
Mhm.
And Jason Blood is kind of, you know, at least a minor sorcerer, because, you know, when you live for 1,000 or so years as a knight, you pick up magic, you know, sure, why not? Um, and he's famous because depending on who's writing the story, either Etrigan, when he's in demon form, always speaks in rhymes, or at least Jason has to speak a rhyme, which is like a spell to transform into Etrigan, because he always says, "Gone, gone, form of man, arise the demon Etrigan," and then blah, transforms. It's like he turns into the Hulk, basically.
Uh-huh.
Um, Another one of my favorite characters from DC is John Constantine,
Yeah.
who was portrayed by Keanu Reeves in
It
the Constantine
Constantine.
movie a while ago. Wasn't the greatest, you know. Definitely not my favorite portrayal. Definitely not my favorite Keanu Reeves movie. If you watch there was a short run TV series for Constantine a while ago, which was way better. But Constantine is kind of like, I don't know who he's most like in the Marvel universe, but he's essentially he's a wizard, and you know he always seems to have a spell, you know, available for such and such. He definitely deals with dark pacts and the bad guys and stuff, but he's always like screwing them over one way or another, you know. So he'll make
Mhm.
a deal with the devil, like literally, but then he'll find a way out of it and stuff.
Mhm.
So um so in my superpowers world, which is like a fusion of all my favorite aspects of DC, Marvel, Valiant, Wildstorm, Image, you know, all these Hanna-Barbera, you know, like all these different
Mhm.
worlds. Constantine and Jason Blood are one and the same, and my players have met the Constantine equivalent, but they don't know that what's coming down the pipe is he's actually, you know, someday going to turn into the demon, what, you know, when the chips are down or something.
Mhm.
So that was one thing. Also, last weekend, I went to the Museum of Fine Arts, where they have an exhibit by Hokusai, who painted and, you know, did woodblock prints, among others, the famous one called The Great Wave.
Uh-huh.
If you see it, you'll be like, "Oh, I recognize that," and we'll put a link in the show notes. We did cover this on the Friends with Brews podcast as well. But what I did then
Oh
is
yeah.
I took I went to Google Image Creator and I asked it to give me a picture of Etrigan, the demon, but inspired in the style of Hokusai. And you can definitely see the influence,
Mm.
right? So Hokusai, famous for the giant, crashing wave in the background, and the images that it gave me back have him surrounded with fire and brimstone, but it's like in the same artistic style with the crashing waves. You have like the crashing flames.
Mm-hmm.
And I also asked it to give me one of Constantine transforming. I also asked it, give me a good name for the equivalent of Etrigan in my world. And he's like, Onikuma. And I was like, can you make it end with an N, right? So I just put an N on it, Onikuman. And Oni being the Japanese word for demon.
Mm-hmm.
So he's like and Kuma is like a playful kind of thing. I was like, great, that's perfect. Give me a rhyme for him to say when he transforms. And again, it wasn't perfect, but I was like, change this, so like I was like, okay, I can use that as a basis though. So I have his mantra that he speaks, I have a name, I have a picture of what he looks like. And I was like, and all of this took maybe 5-10 minutes
Yeah.
instead of, so then the other thing that's happening is in my campaign world, or in my campaign world, yes, we call them campaigns. Another campaign is happening where Captain America is running for president. And so I had GPT write me his stump speeches. And again, they're pretty good. It's
Mm-hmm.
like, it's not it's not great, and I'm sure there are better speechwriters out there and stuff, but it's like I told him, I said, I told GPT, give me his what are the planks, the platform he's running on: strong national defense, enhanced security measures, patriotism and unity,
Mm-hmm.
support for superheroes, and economic prosperity.
Oh yeah.
And I was like, great, write me a stump speech. I was like, let's leave out this one, but we'll use these other ones. Give me a stump speech based on these 4 points. So I won't read the whole thing, because I know listener of the show, Scott Wilsey, will probably, freak out if I go through and read word for word a whole thing again. But, it starts off, ladies and gentlemen, fellow citizens of our great nation, blah, 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 blah. God bless you all, and God bless this great nation. It's like, So anyway, so I think it's a lot of fun. It's great just giving it giving prompts for things. Now, that said, it does still do things wrong. You saw last night in our chat on that other AI powered chat engine that we were using. It tried, but it was not able to tell how I could undo and unpair my Amazon ladies in the tubes from my father's.
Mm-hmm.
The problem I have is that I added my dad to my Amazon Prime membership. Well, to do that, you need to say, okay, so you're adding him to your household. I'm like, sure, despite the fact that, we have shipping addresses that are a couple 100 miles away. Yes, we're in the same household. What Amazon now does is it merges all your Echo devices. So basically, yours is his and mine is his, and his is mine. So when I say a word, call Nick Nikolaidis, all of my Echo devices go off.
Oh.
When his reminds him that there's a Celtics game in 10 minutes, I get reminders. And I'm going for weeks. I was going through my reminders, my notifications, turning off all these stupid, I don't care about sports. Turn this off. I don't want a word. Don't notify me of these. I couldn't find this stupid thing anywhere. And then I came here, showed up at my folks' place a couple days ago, and it's like, reminder, the Celtics play the Brewers, and I was like, it was yours. So I asked GPT how I could unpair those, and it gave a good try. And the A word app interface changes from time to time.
Mm-hmm.
So I could forgive some differences, but it was trying things that were reasonable, but not, it's like, well, disable drop-ins. I was like, no, the problem is not that we're dropping in. The problem is he's getting my notification. Oh, well, you can turn off notifications on this device. I'm like, no, not what I'm looking for. But once again, even when it was wrong, it was making the same mistakes that humans who didn't quite get what I was trying to do would do. It was the same exact thing. And I'm sure you've been on, tech support numerous times with someone who doesn't quite understand the problem and is giving you a solution which doesn't work.
Yeah, or the person providing the solution has incomplete information. Did you try this? Well,
Boom.
no, because this is actually going on. Oh, well then no, that wouldn't work. You have to.
Uh-huh.
so,
Exactly.
so yeah. Well, and I just don't see. I, I don't see what the risk is. It's a language model. I'm still not seeing the risk. What?
Well, the one risk is that people are relying too heavily on this, and there is I forget the name. Oh, there's a new startup called Conveyor,
Mm-hmm.
which is built on Chat-GPT and does compliance questionnaire answers for you. You answer a few simple questions about your business, and it will fill out your audit and compliance forms and answer all this paperwork for you.
See, I don't think it could. I don't think it could do that because I mean, when I do a PCI compliance report,
Mm-hmm.
there are some things that could be automated, like the firewall scan and things like that. But you can't know that the employees are complying with not saving the credit cards on their computers.
Yeah, you can, Adam. It's AI. Yeah, that's the thing. Some people are trusting in this, and it's not just, trusting buggy code, right? I've seen it, like we've seen all kinds of what was it, like CNET was admitted that they were using, something like this to write articles. And if nobody's spot checking these, just like if no one's spot checking the work that humans are doing, you could definitely see some problems, right?
Yeah.
Because there's going to be errors. Similarly, I have joked about it. Like there are tasks. This, there used to be a website, thinkgeek.com.
Yeah, yeah.
They would sell all kinds of geeky little knickknacks, like a desktop catapult and just a famous line of shirts, right? And
Yeah.
one of them was "Go away, or I will replace you with a small shell script."
Yeah.
Right. And that's the thing, is like there are still, I remember maybe it was 15 years ago, there was someone at a credit union that we did IT services for, and one of their main jobs was to upload this report via FTP on a weekly basis or something like that, or maybe it was even a nightly basis, and they
Mhm.
did it all manually. Like every day they had to log in and click here and find this and drag. And you know what it's like when you watch someone who doesn't know how to use a computer. Like it's
Painful.
excruciatingly painful watching this. And I was like, this could literally be automated, right? And I would,
Mhm.
and I remember a former dentist of mine replaced someone with a calendaring system. He had someone whose job was just to maintain the calendar. He spent like, $10,000 or whatever and put in a new system, and boom, now everyone just updates their own calendar in here, and you're down an employee. So just imagine that on steroids, right? Now what can happen is people are just imbuing AI with all kinds of capabilities that it doesn't quite have yet, but
Mhm.
they don't realize that, and they don't really care. Like, hey, we can save money, we can automate, we can take this to the next level. Now I could easily see, like right now, I'm working with with an institution right now which is desperate to cut costs everywhere.
Yeah.
And if they, including employees, right? If I tell them like, well, hey, you could take a bunch of these positions and just replace them with an AI, they would definitely take a look at it,
Yeah.
you know?
Well, and if the position can be so easily replaced by AI, shouldn't it be? I mean, I guess that's the moral dilemma.
Maybe that's right, man. And who knows, maybe this is the kind of thing that you would think would likely be discussed in these forum where they're supposed to, give consideration to stuff like that. I think
Because
the concern is that with any new technology that comes around that's disruptive, there's always going to be, displacement and stuff like that. Like, Uber disrupted the taxis, the motor car disrupted the horse and buggy, chainsaws, probably put axe makers,
yeah.
a serious dent in their business,
Mhm.
etc.
Well, because I mean, you saw. So I, we were fooling around, and what is the back end AI that we're using in that chat? Um,
That's GPT powered also.
it's a so
Yeah.
you know, I
At least I
was
think it is. Pretty sure it is.
I thought it
It's
was
the one I
too,
think
but
it is. Yeah.
I couldn't swear to it because I thought maybe you'd said it was different. But anyway, so I was using it, but I was also telling it where to source its information.
Hmm.
So instead of it just gathering information from wherever it could find it, I was directing it because I was trying to write up some reports for a credit union. Well, the NCUA is the regulatory body for all credit unions. So I
Yes.
told it to go to those locations. So it more or less it just scraped their data and
Yeah.
pulled. Now I
Yep.
still can't take that as gospel truth. I've got to confirm it.
Yeah. Yeah, that's the thing for sure. Like someone put it on, I heard on another podcast, it said it's great, but not for fact checking. You've
Yeah.
got to do your own fact checking.
But what it did save me, it saved me the time of one, locating information on the
Yep.
NCUA.gov website. I would have
Yep.
had to find it myself. I would have had to find
Yep.
the relevant information
Yep.
and all those things. It cut down my research and it dumped it into paragraphs. And then I found it's like, okay, that information I need right there. And then I'd have to go hunt more information because I need that piece in there. So it saved me a lot of time in my research, but I still had to be smarter than it.
Yes. And that's the trick. They're like, just like I said, this was, just like when we started bringing calculators into the classrooms, right? People, I remember when I was a kid, in class, the teachers would say, you can use calculators, but you got to double check. You at least have to have an idea that you're on the right track,
Mm-hmm.
right? You don't just punch in numbers and accept anything that it spits back out at you.
Yeah.
And people don't, I would argue that a lot of the developers of AI who admit that they don't even know how it works are doing that. They're like, we don't know how it came up with these answers. It just did. And we're just going to run with that. So you got to fact check it. But like I said, it's a head start. It kick starts me off in, a number of things, whether I'm writing a new policy, writing a letter, writing a blog post, writing a game, you know.
Yeah.
So yeah,
'Cause
it's pretty slick.
what I found was the show source option. That was a big helper for me because then I knew where it was getting its source.
Mhm.
You
Yep.
know.
Yeah. Cite your sources. Where did you find this?
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes it doesn't do that. Sometimes it's told me, I'm sorry, I can't do that.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but I've definitely I use it to also summarize emails for me. You using it in Zoom right now, right? And I added that too, the same reader Zoom add-on from the Zoom marketplace.
Yeah.
But I'd use that like in the morning. I get a lot of threat intelligence briefings, and some of them I've curated to specific industries, some of them I haven't. So some of them I get these giant, massive, multi-page walls of text. I'll copy it, paste it into GPT, and say, let's see, today I'm working for, let me know if any of these articles pertain to fintech, retail, or healthcare, the spaces that I predominantly, consult in these days.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like, oh yeah, here's one. This one talks about how KillNet is targeting hospitals in the U.S. I was
Yeah.
like, okay, great. Like read me that, summarize that entire article, for me now. And if like, okay, that sounds interesting. Now I'll read it a little closer. Um, so that's it's helpful. It's super helpful for stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
But you enabled, I guess you're not using it today though, because I don't see them, but maybe I just have my video settings different. But you
No,
enabled a Zoom marketplace add-on, right?
yeah, I disabled it because it annoyed me because it took off in all my Zoom meetings. I wanted to be able
Ah,
to toggle it on, and I'm sure I could have figured out how to toggle it on and off, but I was like,
yeah.
I don't have time for this. I just uninstalled it.
I was pretty impressed with it
Mm-hmm.
because I tried it on. I had a meeting a few days ago, and it says, in this meeting, client name and Peter Nikolaidis discussed, using automated reports from Amazon Web Services for SOC 2 compliance evidence production, and blah 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 blah. And they agreed afterwards that this da, 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 da. And I was like,
It's pretty good. Yeah.
yeah, that's what we talked about.
Yeah.
And again, you can't trust that it's going to catch every single detail, and maybe it might misinterpret something. But again, so do humans. I can't tell you how many meetings I'm in where people completely like misunderstand and might even like hear the literal exact opposite of what I just said.
Yeah.
I would say, like, I remember when Log4j dropped. I remember I was on a meeting, with a large firm in their change control board meeting. And I said, the security team needs everyone to inventory your systems and look and contact your vendors to see if you're vulnerable, because the security team does not have full insights into everything across the enterprise. And a manager on the call said, "So you're going to check into that and get back to us, right?"
That's not what
I was like, "That's literally the opposite of what I just said, dude." It's like, no, you need to do that because we don't know. So again, I'm not making excuses for it, but I'm saying, again, it's just as good as humans in many ways. So there you go.
Yeah. So one of the things that I was trying to work on in the engine, which I couldn't get it to do it. I was trying to establish classifying smart people. I was trying to get it to classify, and it kept turning that around, saying, you can't measure intelligence, or and you can't measure, it's like, well, you can't get derogatory. I'm like, well, I wasn't trying to focus on like saying a person was dumb or less intelligent. I was trying to establish a category, that a variable. I wanted to say that if you got an ACT score of 36, you would be classified as a smart person. Because I don't remember what exactly I was trying to do, but it fought me all the way along. Like, well, I can't do derogatory speech. And I'm like, well, I was doing the opposite of, yeah.
So are you trying to ask them, like, by what measurements you could measure like intellect?
Yeah. And it
Okay,
refused to give me that information.
Okay, so I'll ask GPT-4. We can do some live chatbot back here. What are measures by which a person's methods by which a person's intellect can be measured? Is that what you're looking for?
Something along those lines. Yeah.
Okay, there are several methods used to measure a person's intellect. IQ tests, and I'm just summarizing because it's giving me a very verbose things.
Yeah, and it would
aptitude tests.
Yeah. But see, what I was trying to get it to, like I say, classify, but it refused to, even though I said,
So
okay,
classify how?
If a person had, how many, I was trying to get it to say how many intelligent people there are on the planet, and how many non-intelligent based on a variable. Because I was
Okay,
trying
so
to get it to ask
got it.
who is it listening to? Who is it learning from? Why are you not learning from?
It's learning from everybody. That's the thing.
Yeah.
So it's still going. So I'm running GPT-4, and its responses are, typed out slower. I don't know why. Because it's not like it's generating this response at this speed. But it feeds it back in a type format. But it gave 7 measures. IQ tests, aptitude tests, achievement tests, neuropsychological tests, emotional intelligence tests, creativity tests, and multiple intelligences theory. So based on those, are we talking IQ tests, do you think? Is that what you were thinking? Or
because what I was ultimately trying to get to was, why don't you listen to only intelligent people and not listen to less intelligent people? And I couldn't get it to get to a point where it would say what would be classified as the people that it should learn from, and what are the what people should it not learn from. So if you don't want misinformation, don't listen to the misinformed.
but it doesn't know how to tell who is misinformed,
That's
right?
what I
That's
was
the
trying to
thing.
teach it.
I don't think you're going to teach it anything.
No, I'm not. But
Maybe you're not
well,
smart enough.
yeah, I'm not smart enough. But it was learning some things. Like we could set some facts when we were telling it to do things. And then when I kept saying, show me the source, show me the source, then I would ask a question and it just kept showing me the source with it from then on out without me asking for it. So
Okay.
I thought that was interesting. So it was learning because it did say it had somewhat of a cache.
Okay. Yeah, I don't know, but like again, for finding stuff like this, and again, you'd have to fact check this, but it says that the average IQ is designed to be 100, and about 68% of the population is between about an 85 and a 115,
Mm-hmm.
and about 95% are about between 70 and 130. So you've got
Mm-hmm.
this nice bell curve.
Yeah.
So if you're above 130, you're considered to be high.
Yeah.
Okay, fine. But it'd be interesting again, like again, I don't know if I trust these numbers. They sound reasonable, right? But then I would want to fact check this. Like, how can I verify this? Where can I find, I would think like, the National Institute of Science or National Institute of Health or, other organizations will have other reports that you could cite for stuff like that. But it sounds like you were having like a philosophical argument with it too.
Yeah. Well, I wanted it to try to focus on, who it listens to.
Mhm. That'd be great if we could do that, if we had the power to convert, to convince it to like do the right thing.
Yeah.
Somehow that seems like it's beyond the scope of this podcast.
Beyond the scope. Yeah. And then it also it apologized too much. That drove me nuts.
Oh,
That
it always apologizes like after everything.
Yeah, even if I apologize that this answer is not more thorough. I
I am
apologize
sorry.
that you do want this answer more succinct.
Yep. I'm sorry. Yeah, you sure are. It's like,
Yeah.
I'm sorry. You're sorry. This is not a funeral. Come on. Oh boy.
So, but all right. So, any more Chat GPT fun? I have had fun. It has amused me. The
Mhm.
other night, it was very amusing. We had it finally got the snake and the weenie dog to be friends in that storyline. Did you like, tell
You
the
know,
story? It took us so
uh,
long.
that was so infuriating. So I put a link in the show notes. The app we're talking about is Wavelength. It's available in the App Store now, wavelength.app. It is powered by GPT-3, as I suspected. So the blurring of the lines and the friends with Bruce were on there. We have a chat where basically Adam and Scott abuse the AI, and Peter tries to be nice to it and like arbitrate. But we had this fun banter going back and forth a couple nights ago about how much beer it would take to intoxicate a black mamba snake. And eventually I went to bed. I woke up the next day with 207 unread messages. And so I just asked it. I was just like, I said, please summarize the last 207 messages. And it's like, oh, I'm sorry. As an AI model, I can't do that. I'm like, what good is the stupid AI if it can't even, be conscious of the chat in which it is present?
Yeah.
I was like, that is just,
Yeah. So
so frustrating.
the final story was, tell a fun story with a black mamba and a weenie dog are friends and they go into a bar. And, of course you had to do all these qualifications of like, well, it's unethical to feed black mambas beer. It'll hurt them, forget that it's all, it's fiction. It's for fun. And he ended up telling a funny story. It's actually kind of funny.
Yeah. And it's kind of funny too, because sometimes it assumes the worst intent from you, and this is part of its attempt to protect humans, right? So if you mention something that could conceivably be racist, it assumes you're being racist, you
Mm-hmm.
know, or it's like, or it says, or it assumes maybe you're not, but I'm sorry, but I can't talk about that because that could be racist, you
Yeah.
know, for example, right? That's the
Mm-hmm.
effect of, you know, of what it's saying. I found it's interesting though, is within that Wavelength app, you're not allowed to, or I'm not able to copy text out of a chat.
Yeah, you can. You just you have to you click the thread. You can't select text. You have to right click and you choose copy, and you end up selecting that whole thread. But it makes, yeah,
Interesting.
it makes you think you can't, but you can't select text that you want. You copy, then you paste it. But you
But you
can't,
have to do it one thread at a time.
yes, one bubble at a time.
So there's no way I am going to, you know, like do that 207 times to have it summarize everything for me.
Mm-mm.
Because I thought it would be hilarious if I could just take the previous 207 comments and just paste it into GPT, you know? So, oh, well, yeah. So wavelength.app, I am not endorsing that app. You know, I think it's, I'm just
Yeah,
going to say,
yeah. The only good thing about it is I was able to download the app on my Mac, and it joined them like Signal does.
Yep.
So I took so I can do it on my phone and because I was typing that night that the three of us were, uh, you know, giving that thing a workout. I
Mhm.
was doing that all on my phone, and it was a lot
Yep.
of typing. It's a hassle to type at
Oh,
AI
yeah.
every time.
Yeah. 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 So I don't know. And I haven't looked at wavelength. You know, they say it's end to end encrypted. I'm assuming it's using the Signal protocol, but I don't know that. You know, again, not endorsing this app in any way. Haven't really, you know, dug into it, etc. So anyway.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think one of the other things that I'm finding interesting is just reading all of the articles about GPT and about AIs that are coming out, you know,
Hmm.
not just the ones about this open letter, but reviews, like, you know, a writer's like, I got about halfway through an article today on Wired where a reporter spent 2 weeks with Bard, Bing, and GPT,
Hmm.
just asking all kinds of different questions. And I'm only about halfway through that article, but it was interesting. You're just seeing how other people are using these things. But you know, you gotta just realize that there are people are using these things in way more creative ways than I am.
Yeah.
And so there are plenty of chances for mishaps. Just
Yeah.
leave it at that.
Yeah. Well, and I don't know. I've been I've been fascinated just by I want to learn the things that you could do with it that are good. I mean, when I
Mm-hmm.
say good, I don't mean like ethically good. I mean just ways that you could use computing power. To me, a computer is built to do a tedious task so that a human doesn't have to do it over and over again.
Yep.
And
Yep.
that's what I want.
It can also translate. I found that out today. I figured it was probably able to do that, but easily it translates things. So, you know, a la Google Translate.
Hmm.
I asked it, can you give me some upbeat classical composers?
Yeah.
And it's like, yep, Amadeus, you know, Mozart, Strauss, Beethoven, Vivaldi, Rossini. Okay,
Hmm.
cool. I was in the store last night trying to decide because I saw butternut squash on sale. I was like, do I want to make soup with that? Give me some simple butternut soup recipes. Way faster than, you know, searching. I think I've already mentioned that before, but you know, it's just like, here's one, boom, right there. I'm like, okay.
Yeah.
So
Well, and some
yeah,
people say, well, how's that different than Google?
it's
There's a
faster.
lot, well, it's faster, but then you can also give it more variables, more pros and more negative, like, oh, I want butternut squash, but I don't want any recipes that has meatloaf or anything like that.
Right. Would it be good if yeah. Can we have a recipe for squash without meatloaf, please?
Yeah.
Um, yeah, I can also like you know, would it taste good if I added celery to this one? Oh yeah, you could do that, right? And again, maybe it's gonna taste horrible. So you don't know, but at least you know you're getting an opinion. And I'm finding that the opinion's usually pretty good, you
Yeah.
know. I mean, I'm not saying that GPT is the same as a 5-star, you know, Michelin star chef or anything.
Hmm.
But again, it's going to probably, in my experience, is going to be as good as something I just stumble across on All Recipes or some, no names blog. So why not?
Yeah. Yeah.
Yep.
So, well, cool. I think that's all I have to say about that.
There you go. All right. Well, that was the GPT podcast again. So,
Yeah, I really do need to try Bard though. I haven't even tried it. I need to give it a go.
you need to sign up. There's a wait list.
No, but I
So
need to get
ask
on the
for
wait
it.
list. So
You need to get on the waste list. Yes, exactly.
the waste
Waste
list.
list. The waste list. You are waste. Oh,
All
brother.
right.
What else? Do
So,
we have any other topics?
well, kind of a light or a small topic. So, one of the reasons that I bought an Apple Watch way back when, the first time around, is I wanted to use Audible on it. And Audible was not great on the
I
8.
remember that.
And one of the reasons what made it not good, in my experience, was you had to download the entire podcast or whatever you're listening to, the audiobook to it. It would only download if it was plugged into electricity.
Okay.
So you couldn't just have it on your watch and be near. So, and I don't know if this was an Audible problem or an Apple problem, because it could have been either the way that they wrote it or whatever. But now with the Ultra, I have to be prepared to read a book on my Apple Watch. If I want to listen to it, I need to be prepared.
Yep.
Meaning I need to, one, have it already downloaded on my phone, and then two, go to my Apple Watch and download it. Like, say, mark it for download and let it download the watch. And I need that to happen before I want to watch or I want to do it. So if I'm
Yeah.
reading a book right now, I need to know what my next book is going to be. So one, I can get it on my phone, and then two, I can queue it up on my watch. And then once I've done that, the transition back and forth between watch and phone is pretty seamless. It's not
Okay.
perfect because, like,
Okay.
sometimes when I'm in my car, I want to listen to the Audible on my phone connected to my speaker system in my car. But
Mm-hmm.
when I'm walking the dog, I want to listen to it on my watch with my earbuds so I don't have to tote my phone. Well, my watch and my phone need to have been near each other, in order for there to be a proper sync. So
Okay.
it will sync over cellular, but my cellular coverage where I live is pretty lousy. So it just won't sync sometimes. So I just have to check, like if I've been reading back and forth, I'll look at my phone and see what chapter I'm on and see how many minutes are left, just in case it doesn't sync. And then I've got to manually try to find it. That really
Yeah.
sucks when I have to do that. But
Yep.
if I plan ahead, it works fine.
Okay.
Now, if I don't plan ahead at all, so let's say I've got a brand new audiobook that I haven't downloaded on my phone, I haven't downloaded on my watch, I can get on my watch and it will sync my library, and then I can add it to start listening to it. But I've got to wait for it to buffer. And
Okay.
it comes in and I can start listening to it. As long as my cell signal is okay, I can get started on it right away.
Okay.
But it may get squirrely later if I download it on my phone and then I've listened to it some on my watch, because then my phone will say it downloaded it later and its position was at 0 and they haven't
Mm-hmm.
synced. And then boom, my book's starting all over again.
That's a pain. Why can't it just stream? Why do you have to sync? I was just listening to another podcast yesterday, a bunch of developers, and they were talking about how, is software getting buggier? And the consensus is, well, no, it's just that software is expected to do so much more these days than it
Mm-hmm.
used to. And the example is like, when the first iPhones came out, there wasn't even an app store, and then there was, and it had no idea of user accounts. That's just a given now. Syncing your settings across multiple devices, backing up, these are all features that you're just expect, like, oh, this app doesn't do this, what do you mean?
Yeah.
So it's because we're just asking more of them all the time. So
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So I'm not, I don't know. I was expecting it to be awful. So to
Mhm.
me, it's made progress going forward, and I know how to deal with it as far as
Okay.
dealing with the problems and then dealing with the expectations of it. To me, I think it's just worse when you don't you don't know how to make it work. It's like I can't figure out how to make this work. There's no
Mhm.
way that it works. So at least
Mhm.
now I know how to make it work, and I can work with that.
I mean, that's a start, right?
Yeah.
Knowing is half the battle. Oh man.
So, well, good. And so we do have, so on our in 2 weeks, yeah, next Friday, our AI episodes will come out, and then this will be a friendly follow up on more AI. So maybe next week we won't talk about AI. Well, next week, no, the following week is marathon week.
Yes. April 16th is the marathon,
Hmm.
correct. So yeah. I think I'll be around on the 14th though. Maybe I should
Okay,
still be there. Yeah.
all right.
Oh. Oh. Oh.
We'll have the well, I've got Producers Club Boot Camp on the 14th.
Oh. Well, maybe we should just take that day off.
Yep, and you can carb load instead of whatever it is that this does.
Whatever it is. Yeah, carb load instead of well, I mean, when I have a beer when I podcast, does that count as carb loading? I don't know.
uh, I don't. Yeah,
I don't know if that works that way.
I wouldn't say.
Uh,
Are you? Do you put pasta in your beer?
I mean, it's got wheat.
Taters and beer.
Oh, brother. Great. All right. Well, should we wrap it up then?
I think we should wrap it up.
Okay, I should have GPT wrap it up, but I'll do the honors this time. So, listeners, if you want to get hold of us, well, frankly, you already know how because you're listening to this podcast. You know how to find us. But we are at blurringthelinespodcast.com. Adam is at sublimecomp.com. He is at rrlavenderfarm.com, and he is at sublimecomp on Twitter. I can be found at Nikolaidis.com. And if you can spell it, then you can find me from the rest of it. And if you can't spell it, well, good luck. That's all I got. I don't know. Take us out.
Yeah. And we hit the big red button.
Do it up.